Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Actually, it's coming through better now. What's going on in the Northern Territory, but more anything about what Woolworths is and the Northern Territory intervention. I guess we'll start off with Northern Territory. How would you explain what Northern Territory is at this time at the moment?
Well,
is it?
That's actually not an easy question, but the intervention. My experience with the intervention, and I actually was on country at the time. I was in Arnhem Land when the intervention was announced, and I was involved with building of a women's healing centre out there for the people. Essentially, any kind of native title or any kind of self-governance that the majority of the people had in the Northern Territory when the intervention was brought in was extinguished through the extinguishment of the Racial Discrimination Act, and the government appointed a different group of people to oversee the implementation of the intervention. If you go and have a look at who the actual people are, it's quite interesting to see that it's people that are actually involved in the corporations that have become the intervention itself.
So the intervention is virtually Woolworths has a big thing in this, in the explanation of the why. It's the corporation that has everything like liquor, foods. It does have poker machines and stuff like that. But they've got these, like the basic card thing, which is where you get the pension or from the government, where you're shopping from one shop, and it supplies everything. Sorry?
The basic card's something that's part of their electronic system that they've been moving towards for almost 30 years, and this is both Woolworths and Coles combined. I was very fortunate at a very young age to be involved with a court case where Coles, again with Coles, where they well, I won't go into the details, but they were forced by the Industrial Relations Commissioner to table certain plans. It actually came about, I think, because some of the people that were involved in the case with me or for on behalf of me, they were earlier involved with a case regarding the Spastic Association, where the supermarkets used to employ retarded people, and they made it part of their advertising logo that they were an equal opportunity employer, and they employed retarded people. But essentially they had them all pushing trolleys, and what they neglected to say was the government was paying them, I don't actually remember the figures, but I think it was $400 odd a week for retarded people to be employed, and they were paying the retarded people $280 of that $400. And they weren't giving them workplace opportunity, they were getting them to push the trolleys. So I don't know if anybody would remember back then, but it was quite commonplace.
Yeah. And
one of these fellows was involved in that court case. So as part of that precedent that was set in regards to that had something to do with my case. So they had to table this thing, and they had this 40-year plan. And the 40-year plan was to turn the supermarkets completely electronic and to get rid of all of the living people in the system, and to cooperate with other conglomerates to localise all of the services. So water, power, electricity, telecommunications and banking would all be available, and liquor and pharmaceuticals would all be available and accessible through the supermarkets, and essentially there'd be no more family-owned stores, which was the go back then in Australia. So that was that was the beginning of it, and ever since then, in that court case that I was involved in, there was something like 20 company executives that were called to testify. As all of this, I was only a young boy, but as all of this was going through, the people who were representing me, they knew these people well. A lot of those people back then, they were in Coles, and they'd been on the Woolworths boards, and these old fellas that knew what was really going on, they explained everything to me, that they're all in bed together and laid it all out. So I've been watching ever since. As I said, I was on country when the intervention happened, and I've been watching the supermarkets very, very carefully for the last 25 years, and I've seen what they've done in regards to the food and to the getting rid of the people. Now here in the Territory, specifically here, they've brought people here from other countries, or the government's allowed them to come out here on working visas, and they're working in the stores. Now, a majority of them come from India, and when I say India, if anybody's ever been to India, you'll understand India is an enormous country and it has an enormous diversity in its population. There's people in India that look Asian, you've got the Nepalese people, there's all the people from all over India, they're not all just one model. So it's not always easy to see somebody and identify them as Indian, but I associate with some of these young people and they're all Indian. And in India, they have a perfectly bonded community, which means that the people essentially that are of the lower classes have to work. This is part of the political infrastructure. It's supposed to be abolished, but it's not. The lower classes have to work for the higher classes. And what they do is they bond the parents so that the grandchildren and great-grandchildren have to work to pay off the debt. So in other words, the parents might start work at 20 and they have to work till they die to pay off a debt to the boss. And the debts are usually just in regards to food or housing, very, very small amounts of money, but it's a personal thing, and they bond them by making sure that the money that they pay back never, ever pays, like that they work, and the money never pays off the debt, so they, in turn, they bond their children to repay the debt. And so they've bought, very few of these people that are working here in the supermarkets are of the lower class, but there are some, but the majority of them are of the upper class. And so these are people who are used to having people around that have no rights. They don't have any problem. Like in Australia, we were supposed to have had a system where, as a consumer, as part of a market economy like America, you are the actual investor in the company and you do have rights. And if they break their rights, you have the right to go to the corporation and say, I'm not happy with this product, or I'm not happy with this service, and it can be dealt with. But with these Indian people, it's not like that. And it's not, look, India is a beautiful country, and I've travelled right through India from the very, very bottom to the very, very top. And the majority of the people are beautiful, but the majority of the people are poor too. So.
Yeah. So they climb, so they get employees to get no rights. Hereward, you got something to say?
Oh, no, I just agree with everything. I mean, it sounds horrendous.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board.
Yeah, so with this Woolworths doing this, the Codex, now we all thought it went away. There was this, a billion people will starve, but they're very quite underground. And you're seeing Woolworths and Coles, how they're selling organic food or free-range food or chickens or eggs or whatever, and it's a complete deception.
Well, they have a few sections, yeah.